Once upon a time, in the heart of Beverly Hills, the world watched a love story that broke all the rules. A story about a man who had everything but love and a woman who had nothing but a dream. Together, they created a moment that would live forever. The screen fades in with sweeping shots of Beverly Hills at night. Neon lights glow against polished cars, and the faint reflection of shop windows flickers as if we've stepped back into the golden memory of the early 90s. The voiceover begins slowly, almost like a whisper of time calling back. 35 years ago, a chance meeting changed everything. A billionaire lost in his world of power and control, and a young woman filled with spirit and fire who refused to be invisible. Together, they reminded us that love doesn't come with a rule book. Clips of faceless silhouettes, an elegant man in a tailored suit looking out from a hotel balcony, a woman in a red dress walking confidently down a sidewalk evoke the spirit of Edward and Vivian without ever showing their faces. The visuals stay faceless to let the audience fill in the memories themselves. Back then, the odds were against them. Society judged. The world doubted, and yet, love found its way through laughter, arguments, mistakes, and unforgettable moments. The story of Edward and Vivian became more than just a romance. It became a symbol of hope. Music swells softly, hinting at the classic ballad, "It Must Have Been Love," but reimagined with a slower, cinematic instrumental tone. We see a faceless shot of a luxury car door closing. Then quick flashes of Beverly Hills signs, flashing hotel lights and champagne glasses clinking. The narration continues. Pretty Woman wasn't just a film. It was a dream come true for millions who believed in second chances, in finding beauty where no one thought it could exist, and in choosing love even when the world tells you it's impossible. The screen briefly goes dark. Then, with a shift in tone, we hear a more reflective voice. But what happens after the fairy tale? When the curtain falls, when years pass by, when life takes its toll, what becomes of the people who once loved so fiercely? Can they ever find their way back to each other? The music drops into a single piano key hanging in the air. A montage begins. Beverly Hills street corners at sunrise, hotel lobbies empty of people, and a faceless woman's hand brushing against a window as if remembering something lost. Now, after 3 decades, the question returns. Not as nostalgia, but as destiny. For Edward and Vivian, time has passed. The world has changed. But some stories are never truly over. The final shot of this section shows a faceless man standing in front of a hotel entrance, watching a figure walk away into the night. The voiceover closes the section with quiet anticipation. This is not just a sequel. This is a return to the love story that defined a generation. And now, it's ready to begin again. Asterisk, the screen opens with a sweeping aerial shot of modern Los Angeles. The skyline glitters under the California sun, glass towers rising taller than ever before. Luxury cars glide down wide streets, and the Beverly Hills boutiques shine brighter, their windows lined with designer gowns and diamonds. But beneath the shimmer, there's a quiet loneliness. It has been 35 years. The world is faster now, colder, more connected, and yet more distant. And in this city of angels, 2 lives once bound by fate continue on separate paths. Unaware that destiny is about to call again, a faceless man, silver-haired at his temples, stands in his office overlooking the city. The walls are lined with awards, framed contracts, photographs of glamorous events, but the silence in the room is louder than any applause. The narration lingers. Edward Lewis, once a man who controlled empires with a single signature, he now finds himself chasing something money cannot buy. His life is polished, refined, admired, yet hollow. For all his power, for all his wealth, there is still one thing he cannot own: time. The shot cuts to a faceless silhouette of a woman walking through a crowd. She is elegant, graceful, and strong, her red heels clicking against the marble floor of a gala hall. The camera doesn't reveal her face, but shows her presence commanding every corner of the room. Vivian Ward, once underestimated, now unstoppable. She has transformed her story into strength, a voice for those who were silenced, a heart for those who were broken. She has built a life of purpose, turning pain into hope for countless others. The music shifts into a soft piano and strings arrangement. Images flash across the screen, a faceless Vivian holding hands with young women at a charity event, comforting them, lifting them up. A faceless Edward at a business table, his smile fading as voices around him grow louder. Younger, more competitive. 2 lives. 2 successes. And yet 2 hearts that never healed the one wound they shared, the silence left when love was abandoned. Not by choice, but by time itself. The trailer teases parallel struggles. Edward stands in a boardroom where his authority is challenged by ambitious new leaders who see him as out of touch. His empire, once untouchable, now trembles under modern change. Meanwhile, Vivian faces the weight of her foundation. She is a symbol of empowerment, but carrying the hopes of so many leaves her exhausted, questioning if she has sacrificed her own happiness for the sake of others. They had conquered the world in their own ways. But neither had conquered the empty space within. The screen goes black for a moment. Then, a single piano note leads into a new montage. Edward at a black-tie gala, watching a faceless woman from across the room. Vivian at a hotel lobby, glancing at a familiar figure stepping through the doors. The narration whispers, almost like a secret being revealed to the audience. Fate does not forget. It waits. It lingers in hotel lobbies, in crowded ballrooms, in the spaces between one heartbeat and the next. And sometimes, when the world least expects it, fate opens the door again. The section closes with quick flashes, a faceless Edward adjusting his tie nervously. Vivian pausing, her hand brushing against the elevator door. The sound of a champagne glass shattering on marble. A city street drenched in rain, headlights cutting through the night. Then the narration ends the section on a note of quiet power. After all these years, they will meet again. Not as strangers, not as the people they once were, but as 2 souls who never stopped searching for the moment they lost. The music swells, carrying the audience into the promise of conflict and emotion in the next chapter. Asterisk. The screen flickers into a city alive at night, glass towers shimmering, endless traffic weaving below. A storm brews above, thunder faint but growing. The voiceover cuts through the tension with steady weight. Every story has a price. And after 35 years, there's about to be paid. Edward is shown seated in a boardroom. Faceless figures surround him, sleek, modern executives with sharp suits and sharper words. Papers are slammed onto the table, graphs flash across screens. A younger rival leans in, his voice aggressive. Edward's calm gaze falters. His empire, once untouchable, is crumbling under the pressure of ambition and change. For Edward, power once defined him. But power can fade and loyalty can break. In a world that moves faster than he can follow, he must decide cling to the past, or fight for the one thing that ever truly mattered. The shot shifts to Vivian. She stands at the center of a crowded charity gala, applause filling the air. Yet behind the glamour we see a quieter moment, her slipping off her heels backstage, exhaustion in her posture, a glance at her reflection in the mirror. She touches the glass gently, as if asking herself if this is the life she truly wanted. For Vivian, strength became her armor. But even the strongest hearts can tire. She has carried others for so long that she has forgotten what it means to be carried herself. Music tightens, strings plucking faster as visuals flash like fragments of memory. Edward walking alone through a rain-soaked street, his reflection broken in puddles. Vivian tearing open a letter, her hand trembling. A faceless Edward reaching out across a crowded room, only for Vivian to turn away. The world that once brought them together now stands ready to tear them apart. Business, duty, fear, time, and the shadows of mistakes left unspoken. The montage sharpens. Edward is seen signing papers that will cost him everything. Vivian argues passionately in front of a group of donors, her voice drowned in the noise of skepticism. Their struggles mirror one another, 2 lives caught in storms neither asked for, then a sudden stillness. A faceless Edward and Vivian stand in the same ballroom, separated by only a few feet. The crowd moves around them, oblivious. The camera lingers on the space between their hands, the silence so heavy it feels louder than the music, and yet fate has brought them here once more. Not for fairy tales, Not for fantasies, but for truth. The music drops, replaced by the deep, echoing sound of a piano key. The narrator's voice softens, almost pleading, because love is not about perfection. It is about survival, about fighting through the storms, about choosing someone even when the world says you should not. And after 35 years, Edward and Vivian must ask the question they have avoided their entire lives. Do we still belong together? The trailer quickens, heartbeats echo as the visuals blur in rapid cuts. Vivian walking away in tears. Edward shouting in frustration, his fist slamming a desk. A young couple holding hands, mirroring Edward and Vivian's past. Vivian's charity threatened by a financial scandal. Edward facing the collapse of his company. The music grows, each beat sharper, until it crashes into silence. A single line pierces through. If love was strong enough to change them once, can it save them now? The screen fades to black. Then a soft whisper of dialogue, not narration, but a memory, faint, as though spoken years ago. I want the fairy tale. The section ends with thunder rolling across the screen, leaving the promise of resolution waiting in the shadows. Asterisk, the storm that raged in the last section begins to calm. The screen fades in with soft piano keys, almost hesitant, like the first rays of dawn breaking after a long night. A faceless Edward stands alone on a balcony overlooking Los Angeles. The city stretches endlessly, but his gaze is not on the skyline, it is somewhere else. Somewhere lost in memory. In the silence of a crowded world, two hearts still beat for the same dream. Time has passed, the years have left their mark. But love has a way of waiting, quiet, patient, unyielding. Cut to Vivian. She walks down a long hallway of an old hotel, her footsteps echoing against polished marble floors. In her hand, she holds a folded program from a charity gala, a small red ribbon marking the page. She stops at the elevator, hesitates, then presses the button. The music swells, strings rising like a breath held too long. For some, fate is a whisper. For them, it is a voice that never stopped calling. The doors open. Edward stands inside. Their faces are never shown, just a close-up of her hand tightening on the ribbon and his hand loosening at his side. A pause, a silence. The world around them fades into stillness. Quick flashes follow. Edward reaching out, his fingers brushing hers in the back of a limousine. Vivian laughing softly under string lights at a small rooftop dinner. Both of them dancing slowly, her red dress swaying like a memory brought back to life. They are no longer the dreamers they once were. They are stronger, older, wiser, and yet, in each other's eyes, they find what has been missing all along. The music builds into a sweeping orchestral score, powerful yet tender. Their struggles are not erased, but transformed into the foundation of their reunion. Edward stands in a courtroom, facing a devastating business loss. In the back of the room, a faceless Vivian appears, her presence silent but steady. Their eyes meet, and for the first time, his calm mask breaks into something raw, something real. Vivian, exhausted after a long night of fighting for her charity, sits on the steps outside the venue. Rain begins to fall. A faceless Edward approaches, placing an umbrella over her, wordlessly sharing the weight she has carried alone for too long. This is not the story of rescue. This is the story of return. Of finding each other again, not as who they were, but as who they have become. The montage slows moments of quiet intimacy, their hands finally clasping together without hesitation. A walk through the streets of Beverly Hills side by side. Edward helping Vivian step out of a car, echoing the past but with new tenderness. Vivian looking out at the city lights, Edward's arm around her shoulders. Both smiling faintly, the narrator's voice grows softer, filled with warmth. Some love stories never end. They wait, they endure. And when the world is ready, they rise again. Edward and Vivian. Two lives. Two hearts. One love that refuses to fade. The music swells into its highest note, lifting the audience with it. On screen, the title reveals itself in bold. Golden letters, Pretty Woman 2, 2025. Beneath it, words appear slowly. Julia Roberts. Richard Gere, Reunited. The trailer closes on one final faceless shot, Edward extending his hand to Vivian, just as he did decades ago. But this time, when she takes it, there is no hesitation. The narrator leaves the audience with one last line, whispered against the fading music. Once a fairy tale. Now forever, the screen fades to black.